Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I am Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us, and Happy New Year's to each and every one of you. Hey, this is going to be a video for my Washington viewers. This is going to be geeking out on some Washington law here. But with the new year rolling upon us here, it has many of you asking questions, hey, are there some new laws that just went into effect, especially as it relates to untraceable firearms? Now, there's been some stories in the local news that were mildly misleading as to what the effect is on you, the lawful and responsible gun owner in Washington State. I've gotten a ton of questions in the comment boxes down below, and I figured it was time we do a video and get that all cleared up for you. So today, we're going to spend a few very important minutes to try to clarify some things and talk about, does Washington law now require me to serialize all my untraceable firearms? Okay, before we get going down the road we are going down, proud to announce that this video is being brought to you by Federal Way Discount Guns. That's right, Federal Way Discount Guns has been serving South King County now for nearly 30 years. And listen, in addition to having an absolutely fantastic retail operation and a really, really nice indoor shooting facility, as many of you know, Federal Way Discount Guns has drawn the ire of our Attorney General. Listen, if you want to help the folks out at Federal Way Discount Guns, because it's folks like this that are sticking their neck out on the line and fighting for your Second Amendment rights. If you want to help them with the tremendous amount of legal expenses that they are most definitely going to incur, go ahead and check out their crowdfunding site at this link right here, or you can just scan this QR code right here. Listen, any little bit will help them out, so if you feel like you're in a giving mood, help out Mo and all of the family down there at Federal Way Discount Guns. For more information, visit them at federalwaydiscountguns.com. Okay, so the issue we're talking about today is the final implementation phases of House Bill 1705. Now, that was passed late in the 2022 legislative session, signed into law. Portions of it went into effect July 1st of 2022. Other portions are going into effect at the beginning of 2023, and then we have a very important date coming up in about 3 months that we're going to spend some time talking about. Now, what House Bill 1705 did from a purely legal standpoint is it amended RCW 9.41.326, and then it created RCW 9.41.328. So those are the two statutes we're going to be geeking out. However, before we even get there, let us take a step back, because I don't want a lot of you hitting panic buttons thinking that, oh my God, I've got to take every single one of my unserialized firearms out to an FFL and get them serialized, because that is not the case even with this new law. Now, I understand that there are federal rules in place, and we've done videos on those right here, and we can geek out on that. But as it relates exclusively under Washington state law, many of you may have things to do with the firearms. Many of you may not, however, okay? And here's why, is that there is a big, huge, gigantic loophole in this law. We did this video right here about it, okay? And it is how we define an untraceable firearm in Washington state, because unlike many of our definitions, which are incredibly broad and encapsulate a lot of things when it comes to the definitions in our firearm code, when it comes to the definition of untraceable firearm, 941.010 subsection 41, we have a very confined definition, because that definition is as follows. Untraceable firearm means any firearm manufactured after July 1st, 2019 that is not an antique firearm and that cannot be traced by law enforcement by means of a serial number affixed to the firearm by a federal firearms manufacturer, federal firearms importer, or federal firearms dealer in compliance with all federal laws and regulations. So when I am talking about any firearm, untraceable firearm that now falls under the confines of this law, I am talking about an untraceable firearm, a firearm without a serial number that was manufactured after July 1st, 2019. If you have an untraceable firearm that was manufactured before then, this law does not apply. Now, I know some of you immediately are going to be like, well, how do you prove when it came in? And okay, this law does not have any type of unconstitutional burden shifting in there, and therefore it would be on the state to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that that firearm was of the prohibited class, okay? Now, moving along. Effective July 1st of this year, the manufacturing of any untraceable firearm is now hereby prohibited by state law. I want to make that clear. The manufacturing, that is receiving a untraceable receiver and then manufacturing a firearm from that, is technically disallowed by Washington state law and has been that way since July 1st of 2022. What the new laws are going into effect now affect firearms that were in existence at the time that this law became effective. What do we have to do with those firearms? So when we look at RCW 9.41.326, this is what this law now tells us. 1. No person may manufacture, cause to be manufactured, assemble, or cause to be assembled an untraceable firearm. So right there, I think the law is pretty clear that the manufacturing and assembling of untraceable firearms as of this date, actually as of July 1st of 2022, is unlawful in Washington state. Now, the word possession is not listed in subsection 1 of the statute, which is good. But it is discussed in subsection 2 as follows. 2. After March 10th, 2023, no person may knowingly or recklessly possess, transport, or receive an untraceable firearm unless the party possessing, transporting, or receiving the untraceable firearm is a law enforcement agency or a federal firearms importer, federal firearms manufacturer, or federal firearms dealer. So that means that if you are in possession of an untraceable firearm, which under Washington law is a firearm without a serial number manufactured July 1st, 2019 or later, if you want to remain in possession of it lawfully, you will have to turn that untraceable firearm into a traceable firearm no later than March 10th of 2023. That's right. There would be engraving and serialization requirements for those firearms, the deadline being March 10th of 2023. Now, how stiff of a penalty is this if you get caught with an untraceable firearm? On a first offense, it is a civil infraction. It's not even a criminal charge. It's a civil infraction. $500 fine. However, if it's a subsequent offense, your second offense constitutes a simple misdemeanor, which is punishable by up to 90 days in jail and a $1,000 fine. And a second or subsequent offense actually constitutes a gross misdemeanor, punishable by up to 364 days in jail and a $5,000 fine. Okay, now if you fall into the category of individual which you are possessing an untraceable firearm that means it was manufactured July 1st, 2019 or later, does not have a serial number on it, and you want to remain in possession of it, which means you have to engrave it no later than March 10th of 2023. How the hell do you do that? Well, that is all laid out in RCW 9.41.328. That statute starts off with a federal firearms dealer or other federal licensee authorized to provide marking services for firearms may imprint a firearm or unfinished frame or receiver with a serial number. And then there are very specific marking requirements. They are all laid out in RCW 9.41.328 subsections 2 and 3. I'm not going to geek out and go too far into the woods on that. We will do a separate video for all of the FFLs out there so that you guys can geek out on that. But that is the requirement as it relates to all of the new laws as it relates to untraceable firearms. So, just to be clear, to kind of wrap this all up and put a little bow on it, if you are in possession of an untraceable firearm, that is as of today, January 1st, 2023, and when I mean untraceable firearm is I mean a firearm that does not have a serial number and was manufactured after July 1st, 2019, and can be proven to have been that way. If you want to maintain possession of that firearm lawfully, you will need to have it serialized no later than March 10th of 2023, and the serialization will need to comply with RCW 9.41.328. Listen, I know you guys are going to have a lot more questions about this. There is a lot of moving parts to this, and then when we lay the federal ATF new rules over the top, it gets even more convoluted. If you have any questions about this or anything else related to what's left of your Second Amendment rights, you know the drill. You can always contact us at WashingtonGunLaw.com, or, of course, you can call us directly at 425-765-0487. Now, let's remember, part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here at Washington Gun Law, is to know what the law is in every situation and how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching, and stay safe.